The story here says exactly 1 year after Supreme Court granted full autonomy to 774 local government areas, the federal government has continued to channel allocation through state governments. Now, this is a report here from the Punch who says that the governors retained control of council allocation totaling to about 4.5 trillion naira, defining a landmark judgment that mandated direct funding to the local government. And to help us navigate this conversation this morning is Joshua Moses once more. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
All right. In light of the local government elections coming up in Lagos State tomorrow, by the way, 12th of July, for those who don't know, I don't know where you've been, but we'll just tell you, the local government election is tomorrow in Lagos State, which means that movement has been restricted from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. tomorrow. So whatever you need to get done ahead of tomorrow, get it done today, because from 6 a.m. tomorrow to 3 p.m. there will be no movement except you're going to vote, which we encourage you to do so in the recent polls in the local government election happening in Lagos State. Also, we'll have to say good morning to Wade, who joins us here today.
Good morning, Wade.
Good morning, Ini. Good morning, Onome. Good morning, Joshua. Great to be here.
Okay, let's dive into what's on the menu for us today on City Press, and it's all about the autonomy that the Supreme Court granted the ruling to the local government in Nigeria. Here, a year later, it looks like governors are still getting these funds. These funds are not going directly to the local government. Only one state has set up the account for the local government. That's Adamawa State, according to reports that we have. Delta State has submitted the documentation to the government, but still they've not started facilitating the transfers directly, the funds to the local government. We wonder why the delay in this. Why do we still having this bottleneck with this not being done 1 year later after the Supreme Court ruling?
Well, I think it's a question of interest. The state governors, they've realized that, and they have always known that once the local government becomes independent, financially independent, as this case might be, that it's going to affect the level of control they have over their local political structures. And yes, it's a good judgment. And one of the SANs quoted in the report said the Constitution recognizes a joint local state and local government account, but that there's need for a constitutional amendment for this judgment to actually for the Supreme Court judgment to be recognized. So it's in that legal gray area where the Constitution says one thing and the Supreme Court has said the other thing. So who do we go with? Yes, you have to obey the Supreme Court judgment, but from the body language of the state government, it is clear that they are not ready to relinquish this
control.
Yes, control. And then you have bodies like Algon, Labour, and a lot of this not mounting enough pressure on the state government and even the federal government 1 year after. Now the Attorney General who pushed for this case and secured this judgment is also responsible for enforcement. The question is, what has he done? Because my expectation would be that, I think one of the things that was stated then was that the funds will be withheld until there's compliance. I'm not precisely sure that.
Yeah.
But so far, I think they had a political meeting that saw them agree with the president that, okay, we'll continue to run because most of them hadn't conducted local government election, which is one of the criteria for these things to kick in. It has to be a duly elected local government. So Lagos State is going to conduct theirs tomorrow, which is 1 year after that judgment. And some other states too are still battling with this kind of situation. But it is clear that they are taking their time to work this, and this is in anticipation to 2027. I don't think they want to disrupt too much. And now to the local government election in Lagos State. We hope that it goes very well and goes smoothly, but I think the list just came out, was it yesterday? They released the list of those who were contesting, and if you see the criteria that some people have to meet, you have to bring 10 voters card of your sponsor. I don't know who that is. It's a very interesting list if you really go through it. So the local government system clearly has a lot of juice, and the state governors are trying to milk as much of it as they can.
What are your thoughts on this issue? I know there are things you want to shed more on this issue. The Attorney General of the Federation, like he said, they said a committee was set, by the president, who the secretary to the government of the Federation, Akume, is actually heading that committee, and he's supposed to give Judge Akume is supposed to relay some feedback to them concerning the progress that has been made in implementing these judgments. But how long will it take for this judgment to be implemented 1 year later? Or is this a case of, once more we're seeing political office holders not actually responding swiftly to Supreme Court judgments?
You remember that Joshua made mention of what the Constitution says.
Yeah.
And let's remember who brought about this local government on autonomy. And if almost 20 years later, are you with me?
Yeah.
You come back and say, the local government should have autonomy. Then the first thing I think you should do, which should be the correct thing, is create the autonomy within the Constitution.
Yeah.
Which has not been done. Yes, the Supreme Court judgment does make sense, because I do believe that local governments are the first phase for you to create progress within any economy.
Mm-hmm.
However, the other criteria now is open accounts with CBN. So my question also will be, these deliberations that the committee is having, local governments, did they never have accounts with the CBN before now? Because
it looks like so.
Because I know that local government monies used to be paid directly to local government accounts before 2003.
So if they did, why create a separate account?
Why? That's the question. Why not just go and reactivate those accounts?
I think clearly a lot of things have changed from 2003 till now, and maybe some things need to be regularized.
Yeah, but that's regularization, which is standard. Joshua, if you have a bank account that you haven't used in the last 3 years, of course, when you need to use it, you would have to go back there. Now, there are, like you said, elections haven't been held properly in local government, so there are a number of things that need to be done. So, like I always say, let's always go back and look at the things that have happened and say that there are processes for us to follow, rather than just say, let's reinvent the wheel. So that's always my question is, okay, so the committee has been meeting, the president made this declaration, the Supreme Court gave judgment a year ago, but nothing seems to be happening. And I know the reason why. Like he said, the governors still want to have control of the local government, because that is the grassroots of politics. And if you don't have control of those who control those who are going to vote, then there you could be yeah. And then, like you said about the what's it called, the local government elections that are happening and the criteria, it just beats me. What other criteria beats those criteria in the Constitution? 10 voters card from your sponsor. I don't understand. The sponsors hold the voters card of the.
I just wanted to know who these sponsors are.
Let's even leave the sponsors. Let's even leave the sponsors. So the sponsor is the one that is going to decide the 10 people who are going to, produce. Why do you need to produce their voters card? Is it yours? So really, it just beats me when the political class really don't have the political will to do things that are put in the Constitution, but run to court every single minute of the day for the court to try and interpret what they think. That's what these people who went to court think, that's how it should be. The Constitution says have a joint account. If that's what it is, then do a constitutional amendment and give that autonomy fully to the local government as it may be.
So once more, it's now back to legal framework for things to work. We had the same conversation with the electricity amendment bill yesterday, and it begs the question. Sometimes when we go about wanting to put new policies on ground, we never follow due process.
Exactly.
And it's a burning issue across different sectors and different issues here in Nigeria.
I agree with you.
So I think it's a case where the governors became so powerful. This current administration realizes that and did some of these things to actually try and curb them, and then somewhere along the line discovered that we can't alienate these guys too much. Because I remember when this judgment came in, everybody was happy. Then the governors were in turmoil. They called the committee was set up. Then they called the meeting. I think there was even timelines to implementation for elections, for opening of the accounts, for all these things.
All of that,
Then they now had a rethink and gave everybody grace.
Okay, so Joshua, can I just ask you a question? Who was the lawyer that led for the states to have control of the local government?
I think it was the former vice president, right?
What's former vice president? It was the Lagos state governor then, Bola Tinubu, under the same attorney general. Then all of a sudden, like I said, 22 years later, a new star is shining in your eyes. The constitution is clear. He understands the constitution. The joint account between between the state and the local, there's a reason also for it. Because for you to be able to monitor that those things that the local governments have said that they are going to do, because the budgets of the local government is part of the state government's budget in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of education, in terms of health. So if you are not monitoring those things, and that's one of the reasons in 2003 the same president went to court and saying, oh no, we cannot supervise these people if you continue to give them money
directly.
Yeah, and I remember then that Algon was so powerful. And remember also that Lagos State had its funds withheld for almost 3 years because the battle went right down to the Supreme Court. So all of a sudden, the precedent set by the Supreme Court in 2003 is going to be different from the precedent that is set in 2023. Let's always remember that, like you said, there is a process, and interpret the document the way it has been written to
My
the best
point
of our
is,
knowledge.
yes, this history is there, and yes, they orchestrated it. Now we are back to say let's correct it, right?
In correcting it, then go back, like you said, to the legal framework.
These
The
things are
legal
not late.
framework.
It's not as if it's late to do. Because we can keep whipping the dead horse.
I don't think it will take so much of the president, are you with me, to get the National Assembly. But
okay.
maybe the state assemblies will not agree.
Okay, just hold your thoughts on that. We'll wrap up the conversation.